So we want to introduce you to the search engine that we developed especially for you guys. So this, as you know, this comes not out of the blue. So this is part of our interest, part of our research, part of what we like to prepare as an instrumentality for you, that will help us to deal with the questions that we're most interested in. Most of you know what are they about. Maybe we can just make a refresh on what is the motivation for making these databases, for making these custom-made search engines, for making these instruments for navigation. So I think it's very important for us to think that we live in a fully connected world. So we live in an era of computers talking to each other, sensing the world, sensing the temperament of the world, and we see it very often now with media. So if something is happening there, everybody gets to know what is that. Everybody gets to comment. All the information is there, and events are being recorded. Ourselves are being recorded, and so on. So we think of it as a plenty, as a cornucopia, as a ground where a ground from which new things can emerge. So this is about dealing with big data, which is in a certain way is a novel thing. Being able to Google something, find certain possible answers, being able to search architects that we like, to get their comments, to get their stories, to get their projects, and to get the buildings that are built around. At the same time, to Google and know what people did hundreds of years ago. Everything is kind of at our fingertips, and this is what we want to deal with. And this is one of the main motivations of saying, okay, if we have big tech companies like Google helping us to navigate the world, helping us to find certain things that were produced or were put online on the other side of the world. So they are as of now, the main navigation tool to search for stuff. So what happens if our gesture is not trying to cover the whole world, but trying to cherish the things that we like, the things that we care about? You know, we have Ask Alice with Xenoteca, where we have books that we care about. Ask Alice is helping us to navigate those books and helping us to give a voice to our projects. We have Panoramas of Cinema, collection of movies, of millions of images, of things that us believe are relevant to discuss architecture, to talk about architecture. And this is kind of the next thing. We have databases, we have models, we have textures that we believe are relevant for articulating our projects. So,
and I think here what's important is that the difference between Google and what we are doing is in the ambition. Yeah? Google wants to cover the whole world and wants to have generic answers to any question. Yeah, so it's always you ask a question and you get a kind of a common sense of the world towards this question. And then out of the list of this common sense, you specifically go to the one that talks to you. Yeah? What we are doing with this search engine, we think that we need a kind of a political way to equalize the situation, and we believe that this comes from the idea of private search engines. So we don't believe in the idea that there is a database or that there is a machine learning which is non-biased. We think that every database is biased towards something, and then what we do, we create databases which are biased towards what we are interested in. We are interested in writing texts about architecture. We have a database of books that we think are relevant for it. We bias our search engines towards this. We have a database for movies because we think movies, scenographies, dramas are important for architecture. We organize it and we make it biased towards these things. And now we think it's very helpful to have a search engine that helps us to model. So 3D search engine, and then we create a database which is biased towards our scenographic thinking about what architecture might be about. And this is the first try, and we will try with you to experiment how we can work with this. And it's very exciting to see if this will succeed and if we'll come to the level that we managed to develop it on the level of text and on the level of movies.
And then our position toward this Google and these global views are, of course, are challenging. We like them, and then we kind of hate them at the same time. You say it's good, but it's not what we need. Still, this part that we still appreciate and we still mimic heavily is how they treat these models, how they treat this data. So the idea that what we find on a generic search engine and the idea that we find in our customized search engine is the same. There are no answers for anything. These are not answers. These are probability spaces. So when you are searching for something with Google, where you're searching for something with Search No More, this is not the answer of your question. These are probable answers that then you will bring to your specific table, to the specific table. So if we are searching for tables here, then we get an array of possible answers. So there's no specific answer to these questions. And then this happens because we believe that probabilities are the way to deal with the world today. There's no right, there's no wrong, there's no true, there's no false. It's always what are the special conditions that make this valuable at certain time in a certain moment. So we live in a world of probabilities. Search No More works heavily on probabilities, as Ask Alice works, as Panoramas of Cinema work. It's about looking at the answers, probable answers, bring them to our discussion, to what's relevant at this moment, and then mobilize it. And then make these vivid objects, make these vivid images, make these vivid quotes, help us to say what we want to say. And I think just very, very briefly, just to say that this is not, we think that this is not really it's a novel condition at the level of being digital, of the computers. But if we look back at the tradition of architecture, I think these scales of the world, the idea that we are looking at the whole world has always been there. I think this is important also for us to see that in ancient Rome, for example, with the first treatises of architecture, it was really about that, right? You have a treatise. Rome, as a big empire who in principle was covering the whole world, was able to build a city as the book, as a treatise of architecture should be about. You need a healthy city, you need certain type of road, you need certain types of construction, you need private spaces, you need public spaces, and by that path, the whole world is covered. So this is important to see that it's not really the first time that we feel the whole world, that we are connected to the whole world. And we go again with the Renaissance, we go to the printing press, this idea that the printing press was able to, certain thoughts, certain drawings were able to travel the whole world in a piece of paper. So it was the idea that architecture in drawings, that a building could be built on the other side of the world without you even noticing it. That you can share your ideas in documents, you can have your voice on a piece of paper and send it to the other side of the world. Then you are connected. So you are connected, right? And then if you're in 20th century, if you think about Kohlhaas, very similar story. The whole world is full of infrastructure. There are airplanes, there are airports everywhere, there are highways everywhere. You can make a telephone call. Everything is there at the same time. So these are different temperaments of the same thing that we are discussing here. We are fully connected. We need to navigate it. We have possible answers everywhere. So these are kind of our hypotheses on why this is relevant to architecture today. So this is our search engine, search nomore.net, and then you can just go now as well. And very similar to what you already experienced and what you know, you just type what is it that you are looking for. So if you type for a green grass, you click on search, then you get models, you get materials, you get the images that are possible answers to the things that you are looking for. So for example, these guys are textures. This is a grass, a material made with Substance Designer. We have a source here. So this is the legacy that we were discussing before of where is this thing coming from, pointing you to a different space. You can click here and download, and then you download the material. You can just import it to Blender. You can have models, the models of grass. You like this one, you click on download, and then it's here directly on your desktop. There's here a little filter. If what you're looking is models, what you're looking for is models, what you're looking for is materials, what you're looking for are images.
Cool, huh?
And all these images are here, just one click, and then you have it. Reference to the source. Similarly, you can just upload an image. So an image like this, you say, okay, what kind of models, textures, and so on, you have the database has, and then you click on search. It says uploaded successfully, and then you get all these sea creatures.
Or things that look similar to it, because now you are asking the search engine from the perspective of a picture. Yeah? You can ask the search engine from the perspective of text or from the perspective of the picture. And then you have to play around and look for things that you are curious about. And it's never 100% correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? So it's shrimps. You see, you have some shrimps, you have some things which are red, you have some things which are of a similar structure. And then you find what you want.
I think what is also here, if you click on the plus, if nothing goes wrong, you click on the plus, then you get kind of a recommender. So then you get an image that is similar in terms of the colors, in terms of the structure within the database. So you can think about these 30,000 assets. And by asking via a text, by asking via the recommender, and by asking via an image that is outside from the database, there are these three different ways to navigate all the assets that we have collected for you guys. So you will never get the same question if you ask the same thing by a text. It will never be the same as if you ask the same thing by the image. So these are just different ways to navigate all these models that we have prepared for you. And
in principle, what happens is like on Google, huh? You can get lost. You go, show me more like this, show me more like that, show me more here. Ask through text, ask through the image. You navigate, and all of these things are friendly to Blender. That's why we are using Blender, because there is a sync and there is a link between what's happening in the search no more and in Blender.
Yeah, so then this database is, as we said, is what is growing. So now we have from 3 different sources, from Blender Kit and from a highly curated database of PNGs. We have all these things. We keep crawling for more assets from other sources, and we will just be adding them. So the thing is, since this is not a global gesture, the answers may not be, the answers remain in the probability space. So this is what we have prepared for you. A few clicks, and then you have it.
Now, when we want to when we want to go from search no more towards a kind of modeling, yeah, towards a space where we start to play with it. So how to start to play with these things? So we call this, the working title is Super Light Mechanics of Figuring with Someone Else's Bodies. So we have already discussed what does it mean to talk in someone else's terms. Now let's model and let's figure things with someone else's bodies and faces. The question is, how do we play with search engines, with 3D models and these things, yeah? So how do we work with the big plenty, with internet, with navigation, with all of these things that Jorge discussed? This summer, we've been around Italy. We went to Rome. And somehow this Rome was so contemporary and was so, in a way, electric. That I want to talk about it a little bit, yeah? Look at this thing. This is the oldest walk-in building on the planet. So it has been in operation for 2,000 years. For 2,000 years, every day people can walk in. Yeah? Incredible. And this thing is just the house next door. Yeah? So it's in the middle of the Rome, 2,000 years old house, and it looks like it's from a video game, yeah, because we've seen these buildings in so many video games, and it's somehow it's totally off. It's really, you come there and it looks like it's from another world, and you see people hanging out, driving small scooters, hanging out around the columns, drinking coffee, having fun next to the oldest building, walk-in building on the planet. And for me, it looked so digital and so contemporary because it's somehow off. There is something off and there is something on around this building. This was totally crazy. And then you go inside. And what happens is insane. The light inside of it, you can touch it. Yeah, so this is the electricity that we are discussing. This light here is electric light, yeah? It's a column of light which one can touch. To get this kind of spatiality of things, it's just insanely beautiful, yeah? Look at this, how does this look? 2,000 years old thing, huh? Still, you have people doing religious ceremonies inside, yeah? And you have the guys hanging out outside on the fountain. And this is a kind of an atmosphere, and the gods have been living there, many different gods. It has just been changing, and the light and the atmosphere, it's so difficult to get this kind of momentum. Second thing, which was so beyond, and this is when we are talking, so when people say today that we live in a world which is kind of overwhelmed with media. Look at this thing here. If this is not overwhelming in media, but it's not only on the level of media, it's on the level of texture, it's on the level of shape, it's on the level of people who are inside, it's on the level of its history, its stories that it's telling, and so on. Just look how crazy this looks like. Insane. You zoom out a little bit, and it's just full. And it's moving, and it has the textures and the shadows and the materials and the sculptures. And always there is one central sculpture, which is in the middle. And this is done by Bernini. And Bernini did half of the Rome. He had the best workshop that could deliver as many things that people needed in the best quality, which was available at the time. So he was just kind of producing these things and putting them in a palace, which was actually a kind of a sex party palace of a nephew of the Pope. And this guy was just in love with art, and he was collecting these things, and he was bringing things from ancient Egypt. You see this stuff putting it next to Bernini's sculpture, putting it next to Roman sculptures. So you have this kind of eclectic moment of today where you bring things from all over the world, you put them together in a coherent story, which is important for you to have fun at this place. And you fill it with gods, you fill it with sculptures, you fill it with, we call it 50 elements, yeah? But imagine how many elements are here. So this is what we want. We want you to work with huge amount of elements and to bring them into a coherent story, however you want. And you can see the rhythms here, the rhythms of columns, the proportioning of things. You can see the door, how the door connects to another space. You can see how here we have another window, and this window takes us to another story completely. It's the same like today. You don't know anymore where is the reality of this image and where the fantasy of this image starts. It's just kind of moving across from one to another. Always this kind of central element and the things around. And it's in a way so beautifully and vividly crafted. And I was there, and when I was looking at this, I was like, this is so contemporary. This is so insane how these things work and fit together in a beautiful way. And now on these windows, we need these exterior views. We need this kind of settings. We are not suggesting you to do Baroque stuff. What we are giving you here is a reference of how to work with the plenty of things. And we give you a reference of the people who really knew how to do it. And what is important for us, that it was organized around a certain fetish of a certain person. And you can Google a little bit around Borghese and what was happening there and how this was happening. And now look at this moment, huh? We go from here to here. It feels like you are in the same space, but somehow the scale is so different. So this is St. Peter's Cathedral, which again takes this to a whole new level of games and a whole new level of codification. And I love the people, how they look like here, how they move, because you get a feeling of really being at the train station, huh? So the tourists who are around these sacred objects and so on, and how they are dressed and how they look like and how these things look like. Yeah, there is really like a clash of times and clash of realities and so on, but not in a way that one disturbs the other, but they're just kind of adding. Yeah, so it's another layer that comes on top of this, and this layer now it's a kind of an animated one. Yeah, and then you have the moment of the telephone, which records this in a funny thing, and I think these things come together in a beautiful way, huh? And if you start decoding all of these things, there's infinite amount of stories. So you have really the bodies of dead popes there. You have the cupola. The letters on this cupola are more than 2 meters high. The cupola itself is 1 meter smaller than the cupola in Pantheon. So there is a reference directly by Michelangelo to the guy he was aspiring to talk to. This is the talking, huh? When this cupola is being made, it asks, okay, who is the friend that I want to talk to? The friend is Pantheon. Okay, Pantheon is a house of gods. This is a house of gods as well. Since Pantheon is so important, I want to show the respect to Pantheon. So I will make the diameter of my cupola 1 meter lower, smaller than the Pantheon, but I want to be cool as well, so I'm going to make it double height. So it's a kind of a game of respect and a game of in a way of competition, admiration, and so on, and highly codified things. Yeah, so we want to play with all of these references and coding in between of things. Yeah. This is Rome. And now we want to tune our instruments in a way. Yeah? So we want to figure things. We want to work with search no more. and we want to figure things out with someone else's bodies. And someone else's bodies are coming from here, yeah? And from the internet. So you're allowed to use whatever you want. But we need a lot of these things. And we think that architecture is neither a sculpture nor an image, but it's in a way a mixture of all these different media. So we want to have medias present in your projects. We want to make a kind of a body out of it. From a technical perspective, what I think was interesting in developing this thing is that the trick with searching 3D objects and approaching the whole problematics from the perspective of theater is that things can be fake. And this fakeness is also in a way integrated into the development of the search engine, because we don't look for 3D objects. We look at 3D objects through the perspective of text and through the perspective of images. Yeah? So this is the only way how we can look and search for things. Imagine if you have to put a 3D model and say, give me a 3D model like this. First of all, you cannot find a 3D model that you want. It gets extremely complicated immediately. But you take a picture of whatever with the phone, put it there, and you get some kind of things. And these things are again in different media. So in the media of a material, of a texture, in the media of a 3D model, or in the media of an image. And we can play with this, yeah? Because that's how we are all used to. So it needs to be fast and it needs to be light, and you can use it however you want. Actually, you can ask questions with your phone. So how do you cluster 3D objects? How do you search for them? The trick is by images and text, instead of going into the development of things. And then it's super light, super fast, super simple, and it's a lot, and it stays open and rich. The same thing what Jorge said is with panoramas and Alice. So we need to think of this in a way how to get a nice workflow which is simple and which is for you kind of not problematic to use. And now we will need to get a kind of a feedback from you. What do you think, where it doesn't work or where it works? We will kind of test and figure it out, and then we will have an update and another version which will get better and better.
If I can say something here with all these now 3 search engines that are helping us to articulate architecture. So for us, it's as important to be able to have this fertile ground. As important, this is as important as the architectural articulation that we're looking for. And there's certain link there. So of course you can use these instruments to play any other tunes, but we want to discuss architecture. So this is the beautiful thing about the books, about the movies, about the 3D objects and the textures that are not there for a specific purpose. They are there because we want to articulate something beautiful and interesting. And the metaphor that I think we always come back to, or we come back to very often with the Venus, with the metaphor of the Venus, of this the ocean that is fertile, full of foam, and the Venus just comes out from it. So in principle, the ocean, the fertile ocean, is a thing by itself. It's vivid and it's plentiful. It's kind of this cornucopia. We want these things to come out from it. These beautiful things to come out from it. And then all our exercises and all the framework that we're putting together is how to articulate things within this fertile ground that is not really specific to our purpose. It's not specific to any purpose. And we are combining always these things, trying to get this feedback that Miro is mentioning now, because we have a certain idea, but we don't know to the point, because that's not the point.
And for us, this integration of this search engine, we had to find a nice way how to make a bridge between this and Blender, or between this and another 3D modeler. Yeah? we focused on Blender, but I think it's done, how Jorge designed this, it's done in a way that in principle, it can be integrated with any modeling tool, yeah? Because then in Blender, we specifically organize some scripts to import stuff and so on, but it can be integrated to anything. And then in terms of elements and in terms of how to work with it, this now has been taught in a way that it works with the exercise from this semester studio. So we have three basic elements. We have the library. This is collect your 50 elements. We have the unfolded objects. This is a kind of orthographia. First one is ichnographia. These are all the traces, all the objects. The second one is orthographia. These are unfolded objects. It's a kind of objectivity of your room. And the third one is the scene where we bring it all together. So then the idea is that when you start modeling and start working with things, you make a folder. So this folder maybe should not be called objects, but this folder should be called by the name of the room you want to work with. So it's the chamber of delights, for instance. And inside of it, you start collecting images. Yeah? So for instance, for me, it was important to have this Giotto. It was important to have this temple. The thing is that in our library, all the images are PNGs which are already cut with transparent background. So when you import them directly to Blender, it's already done in a way that you can work as if it was Photoshop. So we use Blender as a 3D modeling tool, as a Photoshop, as a video editor, and we think that's the beauty of Blender, that it can integrate all these different media. So then you start just collecting stuff. What do you think you need for your room? I need this Giotto, I need this temple, I need marble, I want to have a phone because I think phones are extremely important everywhere. I want to have frames for pictures, greenery, water, Spider-Man, more stuff. I'm not sure how to use all of them. Ninja Turtles, elephants, clouds, these kind of characters. Then I have a huge fetish on flowers. And I want to have 100 different flowers. All of them. And I want to have a floor full of flowers. But that's not my only fetish. I'm also kind of very, you see how many flowers? It's 100 flowers. Let the 100 flowers blossom. That's a kind of a Mao's saying. But I'm also very sensitive to butterflies. So I love butterflies. So I love Damien Hirst, and he makes all these paintings and images with butterflies, and I want to have my house full of butterflies. Yeah, and then I collect from database 100 butterflies. And the best thing here is, if I want to have a flower, I go here and I ask for a flower. And then if there is another one which I don't have, or something like this, I can collect it and I can put it directly in. I want to have another flower, yeah? I don't know which one I would like to have. I like that they are always like, for instance, like this, and I like orchids, yeah? Alice is all about orchids, so we will download an orchid. This orchid, I will just add to my collection of flowers. Yeah, so then I just go and put it into my unorganized folder of objects. Where are my flowers? Flowers are here. I put it there. Yeah, and then you collect things, and you collect a kind of an imaginary around what your thing might be about. Yeah. Maybe there are some models of this, maybe there are not, maybe there are flower materials, maybe they are not. You can always check around and go through these different media and then take objects that you think are proper. The same thing is with asking questions, what Jorge already showed. So let's collect all these things for a specific room. And then the second thing would be, now we are getting a feeling of what we want to have in the room, yeah? But we still don't know what the room, what would be certain qualities of the room. And here we want to work with this moment of unfolding of things. Yeah? This is a very classical architectural gesture of having an object and then just opening it up, yeah, unfolding it completely, and then start playing with texturing of it. Yeah, so we put certain rhythms. We put a horizontal rhythm. We put vertical rhythms. Yeah? And then we fill them to a certain extent. But we want to texture the things. We want to put the basic openings, the basic connections, the basic rhythms of things, so that we organize the room to an extent. And it's very important to organize the floor, to organize the ceiling, and to organize all the walls. And then you can unfold it in different ways, so that you have the connection like this, and then these things are aside, or you make a connection like this, and then these things are on the side. But it's important that these textures and these things communicate to a level. Yeah. Or for instance, if you have a design for a square, then you have these very subtle differences in stones and so on. Or what is, I think, this is a kind of a nice example. And this is where we go towards the next step. Once we have this thing, yeah, and this thing are these pages here. So we have the window and we have the view of the window. We have a certain understanding of what might be around here. There is a door and the door is open and you can see outside. You know that there is a kind of a kitchen, and it doesn't matter that these things are 2D and this thing is 3D. Yeah, so all of this, it's fake. This is completely fake, but there is a nice correspondence between these 2D, 3D, 4D, multiple D things. And then when you add, for instance, a video, then it gets expanded in time and so on. Yeah, but you see the dog and the cat. They are from another space. They are from the 3D space. The faces of the house are from the 2D space, and so on. So you're kind of building it up with all of these fake elements, and you are constantly folding and unfolding and always checking both sides. You check the scene and you check the unfolded thing. And the unfolded thing is here to help us be architectural without falling into a trap of functionalism. Yeah? So this is about creating a specific atmosphere. This we have to test how to work with, but you always need both things. We will prepare more for next week how this works exactly. But what's important is that you guys test it and that we get an idea what you think how this might work. But you get what needs to be there. The textures, the openings, the windows, and the small 3D objects, or the big 3D objects, or the extruded 3D object, and so on. And then fake it and fake it and fake it and fake it. Yeah? So textures, doors and windows with the views, rhythms, columns, patterns, and so on for each room and for everything. Yeah, for each room, here we said 200 elements. Before we said 50 elements. It's just important that it's a lot. And then the last segment of this is the integration of this with the help of digital craftsmen, small digital craftsmen, and these are small scripts. And this we will also hopefully develop to a little bit more sophisticated level than what we have now. But I think it's working okay. Huh? If we are here, so this scene in terms of its architecture, don't think of it as a nice example. Yeah, so it's a kind of a very fast, very fast thing. But what I want to show you here is that there is a depth to this image. there is a kind of, this is the frame, the proper frame is like this. Yeah? So there is a space which is constructed. The temple has its speciality. The Ninja Turtles have their own. You have the Spider-Man, you have the amphoras, you have the flowers on the floor, you have the marble which directs a certain surface, you have the butterflies in the back. But when we open this up, there is nothing. So this is a set of planes. We have the horizontal plane, we have the vertical plane, we have the butterflies as planes. We have certain 3D objects, like for instance, this amphora here, which is shining. We have another 3D object, which is this amphora here, which is shining as well. So these things can get electrified, and we will have more tutorials on how to set up all of these things. But as you can see here, we already have a lot of objects. And what's important is that the thing is being thought of as a scenography. Then for each interior room, you will create a scene like this. And for each exterior shot, you will create a scene like this. You can add more sides, you can play around, then you test on the unfolding, you organize things in the unfolded thing, then fold it back together and add all of these things in. What is nice here is that when you go to the scripting part, and we will have a small tutorial at the end, just how to do it again, you will get, we will give you this script as well. And in this script, with a few clicks, actually with one click, you can import your folders. Yeah, so now this is set up in a way, and when I click here, play, this thing starts working. So it's going to take now 1 minute, because this script will import. It will go to image planes, and it will import all the images from this folder. It will go to the insects, and it will import all the butterflies. It will go to the flowers. It will import all the flowers we selected, and it will go to the objects, and it will import the 3D objects. So then, of course, you can comment and remove certain things, but what's important here is that you will change only the URL or the address of your folder where you collect stuff, and you will separate the images from the 3D models and from the textures, and you will be able to import them with one click. Yeah? So now the script has run. And if we go back to the layout, if we zoom out, look what we have. We have our collection of butterflies here, all of them, and you see that they are like in Photoshop. Yeah, and we have our collection of flowers. Each of those is 10 by 10. So this can be a kind of tapetum for your walls or whatever. Yeah? So you can treat them as you like. And then we have these objects here, which come in a line. Let's put it like this. It's going to have a little bit more light. It's 200 objects, so it's super light, but not that light. Come on. Okay, good. You have these things, and you can immediately start, and these are the 3D objects. So here we have an amphora, which is in 3D, and we have this spot. So this was just a test to figure out that all of these things work. And then you can just start and start moving these things into our fake architectural scene. You want it like this, then you want to scale it. to a certain level, and so on. And then you go back to the scene and check what happens with these things. So this is the story of how we play with these things, and then how do we integrate them. Where it gets more funny is that these things then to a level can get, but this maybe we will do in the tutorials or prepare this for next time, where we can start electrifying all of these elements. So they can start emitting light, they can start getting different textures, they can start become places where movies are projected, and so on. The point of working inside of a scene is that things get kind of alive, so that these things start to inhabit a space which was designed as a folded space. The other thing which we want to push is the idea of working with many different media. Yeah. So like you've seen in the examples before, you have your own video, you have this kind of textures, this kind of models, put a drawing, put this, put that. And on the level of this scenographic thing, things need to be harmonic in a way. Do you want to add something?
I think the videos here are part of our collection of things that we will import, and even we can go with sound as well. We can go with post-production. We will be preparing all these snippets, all this code that are super easy to use, and always updating these things, updating the file. We will have as well a file that is going to be kind of the base for this thing, where you can place the camera. So all these things we will be working with it at the same time. You will be playing with this how we call it, this digital craftsman, and your own images and your own text, and trying to make this as an interesting tandem, as a harmonic tandem that has little or nothing to do with the construction of things, but more like with the story, with the staging of these electric objects. Yeah.
And how does this make sense for you guys? How does this feel?